Hello，你好，欢迎回来，Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on May 17, 2023. Have you ever heard of the phrase like a bull in the china shop? Have you ever had that used against you? I definitely have. Johnny Tiger, yeah, especially when I was younger. Honestly, it's not fair to use this on a blind or visually impaired person, right? Usually, when you describe someone like a bull in the china shop, you're describing someone who's very aggressive, violent, impatient, impulsive, and just moving around aggressively or bumping into everything, messing things up without consideration for others. Well, I used to get called a bull in the china shop because sometimes especially if I was in a strange environment where I was not familiar with, well, when you're blind and you can't see where you're going, you bump into things, you bump into people. So I personally speaking, I think like when you use this phrase against someone who have a vision problem, is very crass and it's kind of a low blow. But anyway, that's neither here or there. Today we're going to look at the origin or one of the origins of where this phrase may have originated from. Yeah, before I started today's video, I even did a bit of research on Google just to make sure that I wasn't too far off the mark. And this seems to be one of those phrases that everyone have heard before, everyone have said once or twice in their lifetime, but hardly anyone knows where this phrase came from. Uh, who started it? What got people thinking about bull in the china shop? Because it's such a vivid imagery, right? A big, strong, angry bull going through a shop filled with delicate glassware, chinaware, earthenware pots and pans. Yeah, it's quite a good imagery to describe just that kind of person. The kind of person, like I said, who's aggressive, inconsiderate, bumping into everything, hurting people's feeling, uh, disregard everything, everyone around him or her. Yeah, that's a bull in the china shop. But where did this quote or this phrase originate from? Well, today I'm going to take us way back to year 1793, which is one of the origin story of this phrase, the bull in the china shop. 1793, China was still under the rule of the Qing dynasty, the last dynasty that ruled imperial China before the imperial system was overthrown. This was around the time of the Qianlong Emperor of China. Qianlong Emperor was often said to be one of the best emperors in the Qing dynasty, one of the emperors that actually did a lot of good and made a lot of positive changes. Now, at that same time, the British Empire was very aggressively expanding their controls and powers all over the world. They have ships and sailors and military units traveling around and uh, liberating, discovering. Okay, we'll use those words, but depending on how you look at it, they were taking a lot of things that weren't theirs. Okay, that's yeah. Anyway, uh, so this mighty empire from the west gradually turned its attention onto the mighty emperor of the east, aka the Chinese emperor. So the British people, the British uh, royalty decided, okay, we are going to establish trade with China because China have so much things that we want, silk and silver and gold and mineral and tea and different herbs and all that stuff, right? I mean, this is one thing I will say. Being proud to say I am of Chinese descent. Throughout history, Chinese people have always been very self-reliant. Even today. I mean, we look at the news and we can criticize China for their policies, and I agree, their policies suck, right? Chinese communists suck. I can say that. But being a Chinese person with Chinese heritage, this is something to be proud of because my nation, my people, never needed anything from anyone else throughout history. We made everything we needed. We mined, built, created, invented everything we needed. Okay, that's me diverting a little bit to scratch my Chinese itch, to stroke my own Chinese ego, to pat myself on my little Chinese head and pat myself on my little Chinese shoulders. Oh, these are not very little shoulders. Anyway, uh, um, back to the story. So the British royalty decided that to have better trade relation with China, they needed to send a delegation to meet up with the Chinese emperor to establish some trade agreement, to make some demands, and uh, to to set some conditions. So they formed uh, an embassy called the Macartney Embassy, led by one Lord Macartney. And yeah, they did the whole sail across the ocean, crossing the Great Wall, and all that great. I'm pretty sure, I'm sure all these look great on the adventure book or stuff like that. But a bunch of white people led by Lord Macartney came storming into China, demanded to see the emperor, and pretty quickly they hit a snag. And this snag was one of the more ridiculous things that happened during East-West relationship around that time. This snag that held up a whole bunch of later establishment, later trade relation was the simple action of kowtow. What is kowtow? Traditionally, when you meet the Chinese emperor, or if the Chinese emperor sent you a decree, okay, the Chinese emperor sent you a parchment with his command or his instruction on it, even if you receive that piece of paper or parchment, you're supposed to kowtow. Kowtow means you get down on your knees, both knee to the ground, and put your forehead to the ground as a sign of submission and worship. Now, Lord Macartney refused to kowtow. He was told again and again by the ambassadors and the Chinese delegations and the Chinese ministers that when you meet the emperor or when you receive his royal decree, you need to get down on your knee and put your forehead to the ground. Lord Macartney, ironically enough, said, I do not want to kowtow because I believe this is too much like slavery. This is a British guy, 1793, telling me that he doesn't want to kowtow because this feels too much like slavery. You tell me if this is ironic or not, right? Okay, so Lord Macartney refused to kowtow, and because he refused to kowtow, he was not able to receive any royal decree or communication from the emperor because he refused to get down and receive them the proper way. And worse than that, he was for quite a while refused to be in the presence of the Chinese emperor. He couldn't meet with the emperor because he refused to kowtow. He even went as far as making a demand to the Chinese minister. Okay, tell you what, if I kowtow to your emperor, then you have to kowtow in front of the portrait of my British royalty. You have to kowtow to my king. A Chinese magistrate, the Chinese ministers were like, uh, no, dude, you came to my country. You do it my way. I don't need to do it your way. You need to get your priorities straight, dude. Like you come to my country, so you need to kowtow to my emperor. Why should I kowtow to your king when your king is not even here? So yeah, as ridiculous as this sound, as childish as this sound, this was the biggest snag that held up the trade relation at the time. Finally, a bunch of Chinese ministers got together and came up with a ridiculous way to allow the British ambassador to get around the whole kowtow issue. The Chinese minister went to Emperor Qianlong and said to Emperor Qianlong, Your Majesty, Heaven's Son, Your Highness, Your Greatness, uh, you must forgive these foreigners that come to pay you the utmost respect. They cannot kowtow to you, not because they don't want to, but because they are British. Huh? Emperor Qianlong was like, uh, what does that mean? And the minister said, well, Your Majesty, you've never met a British person before, so you don't understand. Uh, British people, they are not human like us. They're different. They look a little bit like us, but you know how they have different hair, that their eyes look different, their facial feature look different. The emperor said, "Yeah, I realize that." And the minister said, "Well, one thing that Your Majesty didn't realize is that the British people they don't have knee joints, they don't have kneecap, so they can't kowtow. Okay, they can sit down, they can lay down, but they can't kneel because they don't have knee joints. I am not even making this up. Okay, if you go and look in the Chinese historical record on this incident around the McCartney embassy, this was what they told the emperor that why the British people wouldn't kowtow. And Emperor Qianlong, being a very forgiving and good-natured guy, he said, "Oh well, okay, whatever, no big deal. If they don't have knee joints, that's okay. Like, they don't need to kowtow." Well, this back and forth, all these talking to the emperor and coming up with a lie about no knee joints, took quite a few weeks to accomplish. By this time, by the time the emperor agreed that the British people didn't need to kowtow, Lord Macartney and his delegation got pissed off because they felt that they came all the way from Britain and how dare these Chinamen make us wait and don't let us see their emperor. We are the biggest empire in this world. The British Empire is a major power in the world. How dare they treat us like this? Yada 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 yada. They got offended. Okay, so Lord McCartney took his delegation and they went back to Britain. They left. So when the emperor said, "Okay, it's okay. They don't have to kowtow. It's too late. They left already." Needless to say, the whole McCartney embassy, this whole ad- adventure, this whole trip to China to establish trade was a total waste of time. Right? They didn't get to do anything. They didn't get to agree on anything. They didn't establish any agreement. So after Lord McCartney got back to England and everybody found out that the mission was a failure because he refused to kowtow, it got splashed all over the newspaper. And one of the reporters wrote in the column, the royalty, His Majesty the King, should have sent someone with much more refined sensibility to deal with a nation that have culture and delicate sensibility rather than sending someone like Lord McCartney. Sending someone like Lord McCartney to China is like sending a bull into the China shop. And from there on, this phrase just took off, and we are still using it today. I hope that this has been a bit of an entertaining story, and now that we know one of the possible origins of the phrase "bull in the China shop," I'll be back again tomorrow for some Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见.